the guys on the back end. I know I asked him about you guys.
Mm.
The guys on the back end, they locked it down for the most part on Saturday. How much does that help you guys up front when when they're doing their job? The quarterback has to hold the ball a little bit longer, and it
Exactly.
gives you a little bit more time to get to him.
Right. Just like you mentioned, he has to hold on to the ball longer, which gives us more time to go and get after him. When there's 4 of us rushing, maybe 5 sometimes, but it just allows us to get back there and get to him.
You've had a lot of yourself, or a lot of really good games back to back. Where have you seen yourself grow the most this season as a player?
Back in January when I decided to come here, most definitely.
What? Dorian didn't really answer, but up front, Boston College's offensive line, they're a veteran group. What challenges do they present up front for you guys?
They're big guys. They're very strong, and ultimately their size is really a huge part of who they are up front. They stay on blocks for a long time, and for us, it's just gonna make us stay disciplined, stay in our gap, and make the play when it comes to our gap.
How good did it feel to finally get over the hump on Saturday?
Right. It felt good. Everybody is what we've been waiting for, is what we've been working for, and just to finally go out there and have it come full circle for us on Saturday, it was huge for us. We definitely needed it, but you got to put it in the rearview mirror and focus on BC now.
Jordan, I love that sweatshirt, with Brotherhood on there. Coach Fu in the locker room talked about how you guys are not going to go backwards. It's a brotherhood. It's bigger than one person. It's bigger than the program. So can you talk about how that message has kind of come together for you guys and came to fruition this past Saturday?
Most definitely. The brotherhood is ultimately just being able to trust your brother to do his job, that he's going to do his job, and just being able to execute your job, knowing that other guys are dependent on you and you're also dependent on other guys. And for us, that's super huge, because for me, I don't want to let Tizzy down. I don't want to let Dorian down. I don't want to let guys that are dependent on me to do my job down. So I feel like just that alone kind of helps us push each other and push one another through to get where we want to go.
There's a moment where Barno was unstoppable for a second there for a couple of plays. Can you talk about his growth the last few games and how he was lights out on Saturday?
Yeah, no, he was lights out for sure. He's just using his freakish ability, his athleticism to make plays, and he's just putting them in the right spots for him to do that. And it came full circle for him on Saturdays. Just seeing him fly in the backfield, make a sack when we needed it and stuff like that it was definitely huge for us up front and on the defense as a whole.
I know you've only been here 1 year, but Jalen Griffin's a guy who doesn't get a lot of love, and his strip sack was huge. So how awesome was that to see a guy who's kind of under the radar make a huge play? And
Right. He made a huge play in the Griffin Bowl. All the hype coming up to that game. But Griff is a guy that, like you mentioned, he may not be in all the headlines and stuff like that, but he's a hard worker. He's a great football player, and he makes plays when he needs to. And Saturday he made a huge one, and it just so happened that it was in the Griffin Bowl.
All right, we got a couple out on Zoom. Aaron.
Hey, Jordan. We often talk about the challenges of a short week. I'm curious if there are any positives to it, maybe less practice or just, the quick turnaround you like. I don't know.
I mean, I'm speaking for myself. A positive for me is that we get to play a day sooner. You know what I mean? You don't have to wait all week up until Friday night to start getting your mind ready for the game. We're here, and now we have a couple of days of practice, and then we travel to head down to BC, and then we're playing on Friday. And then another positive for me is having that Saturday off. Being able to watch all the other games you're not typically able to watch on Saturdays when you're playing as well.
I'm curious, you guys, going into Georgia Tech game, you were the least penalized team in the country. And, sometimes penalties that come in games that don't go your way, are the personal fouls, the little scraps and fights and things like that. How have you guys avoided those? I mean, where does the leadership, I guess, come from? I'm sure yourself, some others, but, how have you guys maintained your composure, I guess, late in some of those results that weren't what you wanted?
It's just, we're in tight games a lot, and the margin for error is small, and we just can't let something that we can control. A penalty, I feel like, is self-control. Like, it's nothing that – sometimes there's going to be a bad call, yeah, but ultimately, unnecessary roughness, personal fouls and stuff like that, you gotta know where the game is. And we've been in a lot of tight games where we can't really – that's going to hurt us huge. It's going to be a huge impact if we have a personal foul, because that's just yards. It's a game of inches, and ultimately we don't want to be able to give anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Trey said after Saturday's game that, if you lose 4 in a row, there's not really much more you can say, to try to pick the team up. Did you feel like you were getting close to the point where, as a leader, people might be tuning you out if you kept losing?
I don't think I ever got to that point, just because I'm always the glasses half full kind of guy. You know what I mean? I always want to keep encouraging guys. Even if I'm saying the same thing, I'm gonna just keep saying it until something happens. I'm gonna annoy you until we get the results that we're looking for. So ultimately, I never got to the point where I was just like, I'm just gonna stop saying the same thing. You know what I mean? You got to keep pushing each other, keep going, and it happened. Like, we got what we wanted Saturday, and we just want to keep moving forward.
Thanks, man. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Jordan, Aaron was asking about penalties, and Fu said earlier that they really try to give you guys a sense of how the game will be called by conferring with officials and getting rules interpretations. Do you guys feel like when you enter a game that you have a pretty good foundation as to how the game's going to be called and what to avoid?
I wouldn't say we know how the game's going to be called. Like, there's a bunch of different officiating crews and stuff like that, and sometimes you might be in a game where you're not going to get that hold that you would have got in previous weeks. So ultimately, you just got to go out there. It adjusts your game a little bit, because if you know you're not going to get a hold, then you got to escape the block. You got to be more violent on your escapes and stuff like that. But I would say that's really the only thing. Like, we don't just go in and know that, oh, they're not going to call any penalties this game. Like, you know what I mean? It's just something that kind of happens in the flow of the game, and it's something that you take notice of and just adjust your play style to it.
Sure. And then, especially as someone who has played elsewhere in the ACC, how much attention do you pay to results or around the league, and have many or any of them surprised you this season?
The ACC and just college football in general has been so wide open this year. I mean, it's definitely surprising each week to see certain teams lose and certain teams win, and all the upsets and stuff like that. This year of college football has just been full of that, and you just never know. Like, Saturday, when you check all the scores and stuff like that, it's always some eye openers. You know what I mean? It's just some games that catch you off guard where you're like, wait, what happened? You know what I mean? So it's definitely fun and interesting to be able to see those types of things on Saturdays and the following weekends and weeks.
And were you surprised that Pitt lost to Miami on Saturday?
I was. We were actually getting out of the locker room. I had just got on the bus, and I knew, because I had checked the score. I had checked the scores after our game, after we had celebrated and did all our dancing and stuff like that. I had checked the scores, and I had actually seen that Miami was up, and then went in the shower, got dressed, and did all that, and then as I got on the bus, we found out that Pitt had lost, and it's just something like that. It's like things like that don't even surprise you anymore at this point. Just seeing big, like, ranked opponents and undefeated teams, better teams losing and stuff like that. It's just something that's been happening all year.
And do you allow yourself to even think, hey, we're only a game behind in the loss column. If we go on a run here, we might be able to get back in this thing? Or do you not even let your mind go there?
I don't even let my mind go there. I just focus on each week, going 1-0 each week. Because if we do our job, then we can't let it fall into the chance of other teams losing. You know what I mean? We just ultimately, if we go out there, execute, go 1-0 that week, we're doing our part. And then that thought there is in the back of our minds, but we're something that we really can't control. We can't bank on other teams losing, other teams like this happening and stuff like that.
Thank you.